What do you know about Murasaki Shikibu? She's best known for writing Japan's first romance novel, The Tale of Genji, which was written in the early 11th century. What inspired her to write this story, and how does this story survive through all those centuries to be translated into many languages and read all around the world? Come with me and meet Murasaki Shikibu. Lady Murasaki Shikibu, not her real name but an official title, was a low-ranking lady of the court. Her official position was a Naishi no Suke, middle-ranking lady-in-waiting. Her roles included greeting guests, educating, and taking care of the royal family. She was recruited to court because she was highly educated, but you're probably wondering, how did Lady Murasaki get her education? Lady Murasaki does tell us in her diary that when she was a younger girl, she often eavesdropped on her brother Nobunori's lessons with her father Fujiwara no Tametoki. Chinese was the language in all official texts in the court, so all men had to be able to read Chinese for their jobs. Also, Tametoki was a Chinese literary scholar and a published poet, and he wanted to give all of that wisdom to his son Nobunori and make him a Chinese scholar too. But poor Nobunori. He must have been allergic to studying or something. He just couldn't keep up with his studies, but Lady Murasaki would. So realizing that his daughter had a natural talent in reading and writing, Tametoki was extremely happy to teach his daughter. However, eventually there was going to be a problem with that. Women were criticized for being able to read and write in the Heian period. They were put down for being able to display any sort of talent, or people would just spread rumors about them. It's a practice that actually still goes on today. It all comes down to jealousy. Of course, men were criticized for flaunting around their Chinese education, but women were especially vicious to each other. For example, in one belief, beautiful women and smart women went to hell. Looking at you, Sei Shonagon, writer of the Pillow Book. Despite all of the pettiness that was going on, Lady Murasaki would read a lot of Chinese and Japanese texts, including the Kojiki, the Nihon Shoki, the Manyoshi, and Issei Monogatari. And to keep the haters from hating on her, she would study in secret, and she would deny being able to read or write when she was put on the spot. So Lady Murasaki would hide her education because of the haters, but then how did something like the Tale of Genji come about? It's kind of a sad story, but if things didn't happen the way they did, the Tale of Genji may never have been written. By 998, Lady Murasaki would marry, and she would have a daughter the following year. She was really happy in her marriage, and she really felt like her life was complete. But after just 3 years of marriage, her husband dies of smallpox in 1001. Now, I went down quite a rabbit hole with this one because not only was smallpox a very big problem in the Heian period, but I think that it shapes the narrative of the Tale of Genji. Up until this time, 1001, Japan had been struggling with smallpox being brought over from the Silk Road and just completely wiping out whole government sections in the palace. The biggest outbreak happened in 737, the Tempio epidemic outbreak during the Nara period. And that outbreak wiped out 25 to 30% of the population, plus 4 princes at Heijo Palace. They all pass away from the illness. After the outbreak, I could not find any smallpox deaths during the Heian period, but it seems that outbreaks do continue to occur until about 1050. It seems that smallpox was just as deadly 200 years after the Nara period big outbreak, but that it became such a common occurrence that people just stopped recording it. Not only did Lady Murasaki lose her husband, but it's possible that the daughter that they had together was given up to the father's side of the family to be raised, leaving Lady Murasaki with nothing. At this time, it's not typical for women to remarry, so Lady Murasaki not only grieved the loss of her husband, but that she would never have the life that she was told she would always have. One of the must-see sites on the Murasaki Shikibu tour, this is our house. This is where the Tale of Genji got wrote, they say. Let's go. You know how when you're in a dark place, you naturally start looking for things that numb the pain when you do that thing? For Lady Murasaki, it was reading and writing. As she grieved, she would pore over her late husband's books and stacks of poems, which were left stuffed in a cupboard. After a year, it is said that she started writing to soothe herself. I really think that the Tale of Genji was meant for Lady Murasaki alone. Reading the Tale of Genji, a lot of the women that Genji comes in contact with pass away quite suddenly, and even after quite a bit of suffering. So I think the shock that Lady Murasaki must have experienced after losing her husband just sort of pour onto the pages that she was writing on. But then people started taking notice about her writing the story, and word spreads around quite quickly about Lady Murasaki's amazing tale. It's obvious that the Tale of Genji is found out by the outside world, but it's a mystery as to how the word got out. There are so many stories about when and where the Tale of Genji gets written and its route it takes to get to the royal palace. Just a few of those stories are. In one story, Tametoki was worried about his daughter, so he wrote to Prime Minister Michinaga to give her a position. In another story, a close friend found the script to the Tale of Genji, and after reading it, told other people about it, and the rumor spread all the way up to Michinaga. In another story, Lady Murasaki was staying at Ishiyama-dera in Shiga during her period of grief, where it was there that she penned her tale. When Michinaga asked around for interesting stories in order to recruit women to the culture chamber of Empress Shoshi, the monk told him about Lady Murasaki. Whatever the route, the end result is that Michinaga recruits Lady Murasaki to be in the service of Empress Shoshi in 1005.
Whoa, back up. Who is Michinaga and Empress Shoshi, and what is this culture chamber?
Fujiwara no Michinaga, the prime minister of the imperial court, wanted his daughter, the Empress Shoshi, to learn more about culture in order to be more appealing to her husband, the Emperor Ichijo. Michinaga recruits a bunch of highly talented ladies, including Lady Murasaki, to make up a kind of culture chamber to teach Shoshi about culture. Here, while she tutors Empress Shoshi, Lady Murasaki is given a place to write more of her story. But also, Empress Shoshi would do this to ensure the Tale of Genji's survival to the present day. Empress Shoshi, Emperor Ichijo, and Michinaga loved the story so much that they were instrumental in getting the story published, But the way that they went about it was very different from other published texts of the time. Official texts were written on scrolls, but the Tale of Genji was bound into a book. This was a big thing because the publication of the book needed a huge production line in order for it to get published. Lady Murasaki would write a draft. Lady Murasaki would tell us that Michinaga would sneak into her chamber, steal drafts of the story, and give them to his daughter, Empress Shoshi. There was a section of the court that made paper and kept track of old paper to be reused. From here, specially dyed paper was collected. Then, the draft and paper were sent to the calligraphy department for copying. Once the copying was done, the final draft was sent back to Shoshi's chamber, and the ladies in waiting there would pick colored paper for a cover and bind everything together with cord. So just to give you an example of what the Heian period book may have looked like, this is an Edo period version. This is not the Tale of Genji. Inside the book, the pages are very delicate and thin, and then on the outside of the book the paper is a little thicker, and then it's bounded by string. This is actually probably a little too intricate for Heian period bookbinding. In the Heian period, it would most likely have been in this direction and then bounded on the side. Yeah, that would be the Heian period book. Sadly, none of the original copies of the Tale of Genji survive to the present day, but the Tale of Genji's popularity would go on into the Muromachi period, where in the 16th century, the Tale of Genji becomes the first book to ever be typefaced in hiragana. Things are going really well for Lady Murasaki, but then it is here that she stops writing and she completely disappears from the records. Where does she go? The last date recorded in Lady Murasaki's diary is 1010, but there are other sources to suggest that Lady Murasaki was around a little bit longer. After Emperor Ichijo passes away in 1011, it is recorded that Lady Murasaki is still in the service of Empress Shoshi as she stays at Biwa-dono, which is a residence of Michinaga. However, in a diary entry by Fujiwara no Sanesuke, he records, "Tametoki's daughter has been received." Received by Buddha, possibly? This was in 1013, and she would have been 40 years old. I've only seen one other source that says that she survives to 1030. If she did survive until 1030, then she did so having a very quiet life away from the Tale of Genji and from the royal court. This is where they say her grave is, wedged between suburban houses in northern Kyoto. Next to her grave is a stone plaque, written both in Japanese and in English, about her and her famous tale. It is said that she spent her last days in this area before passing on and leaving her tale to be kept alive, translated into 30 languages and read all over the world. Arigatou gozaimasu. I hope you got to know a little bit more about Murasaki Shikibu, the woman behind the Tale of Genji. In this episode, I talked about Lady Murasaki's life, but I only briefly talked about her role in the royal court. If you're interested in a little experiment as to what a job interview might look like in the inner court, check out this video. Oh yeah, Heian period women were expected to work. Housewives weren't invented yet. But that's all I have for today. See you next time. 極度南春でございました。